In this part, we'll look at common types of personal protection equipment and see how they're used. Personal protection equipment is what you wear to protect yourself from injury. This part also covers procedures for safely lifting heavy objects. Before you begin work, it's important to consider what types of accidents could happen on the job you're about to do. Using common sense and wearing the appropriate personal protection equipment will reduce your chances of being injured. For example, hard hats are worn to protect the head. Here's a typical hard hat. Its outer shell is made to protect your head from a hard blow. The webbing inside the hat maintains a space between the shell and your head to help cushion your head from any blows to the hard hat. The headband lets you adjust the fit so that the hat fits comfortably and so the webbing is properly positioned. You should inspect your hard hat before use. If there are any cracks or dents in the shell, or if any of the webbing is worn or torn, get a new hard hat. Besides protecting your head, it's also important to protect your eyes. Eye protection such as safety glasses or goggles should be worn wherever there is even the slightest chance of an eye injury. Regular safety glasses will protect you from objects coming at you from the front, and side shields can be added to give protection from the sides. But the best protection from all directions is provided by safety goggles because they totally enclose your eyes. Safety glasses and goggles must be inspected before use and always handled with care. If they become scratched or damaged, replace them. You should also clean the lenses regularly with lens tissue or a soft cloth. Another one of your senses you may need to protect is your hearing. Protecting your hearing requires particular attention because your ears may not always give a warning when they're being damaged. Exposure to high noise levels over a long period of time can cause hearing loss, even when the noise is not loud enough to cause pain. So you should also take steps to protect your hearing. Ear protection is usually provided by using earplugs or earmuffs that are specially designed for this purpose. Earplugs fit into the ear where they can filter out noise. Earmuffs are large padded covers for the entire ear. In extreme cases, both earplugs and earmuffs may be required. Now let's turn our attention from the head to the hands. Many job sites require the use of gloves to prevent injury to the hands. You'll commonly find work gloves made out of cloth, canvas, leather, and rubber. You should wear the kind of work glove that is best suited to protect your hands for the job you're performing. Leather work gloves are used to prevent cuts and scrapes when the wearer is handling sharp or rough materials. Heat-resistant gloves are sometimes used for handling hot materials, and special rubber-insulated gloves are used when work is done on or around live circuits. Be sure to inspect your gloves before each use. If your gloves become worn, torn, or soaked with oil or chemicals, dispose of them properly and get new ones. In addition, rubber gloves used for electrical work should be tested and certified regularly to make sure that they will protect the wearer from electrical hazards. Now let's turn our attention to protecting the feet. Probably the best shoes to wear on the job are approved steel-toed, steel-soled safety shoes. The steel sole prevents nails and other sharp objects from puncturing your feet, and the steel toe protects your toes from falling objects. The next best footwear material is heavy leather. It's important to inspect your work shoes before you put them on. Replace them when the sole tread becomes worn, when there are holes in the upper part, or if they become soaked in oil. Another important type of personal safety equipment is worn to protect you from being injured by a fall. For example, this fall protection system has a safety harness that consists of shoulder and chest straps and leg straps. It also has a D-ring, which is used to attach a lanyard. The other end of the lanyard is attached to a strong anchor point located above the work area. You should wear fall protection when required by your company's work rules. Remember that a fall protection system must never be used for anything other than its intended purpose. Carefully inspect the harness before each use. Make sure that the buckles in the D-ring are not bent or deeply scratched. And check the harness for cuts and rough spots. If you find any damage, turn the harness in for testing or replacement. Of course, all of the hazards on a job can't be seen. One type that frequently can't be seen is a breathing hazard. For protection from this type of hazard, the use of a respirator is required whenever there is a danger of suffocation or other breathing hazard.
Selecting the right screwdriver for the job is the first step in properly using a screwdriver. It's important to select the screwdriver with the right type of blade for the screws you'll be using. Using the wrong screwdriver could damage the screwdriver, the head of the screw, the job, or you.
Now, before using any respirator, you should check it carefully for damage and perform fit checks. Always begin by checking the general condition of the respirator before you put it on. Examine the straps, sealing surface, and gaskets for any cracks. If the respirator isn't in good condition, don't use it. However, if it appears to be in good working order, follow the manufacturer's instructions to put the respirator on and adjust it for a comfortable fit. There are two fit checks that must be performed. One is an exhalation or positive pressure check, and the other is an inhalation or negative pressure check. Let's look at a positive pressure check first. To begin the positive pressure check, you need to block off the air outlet for the respirator. Exactly how this is done varies depending on the type of respirator used. For the respirator shown here, the exhalation can be sealed off with your hand. Then you exhale and maintain a positive pressure inside the facepiece. If the respirator fits properly, you should not feel any leaks around the sides of the facepiece. If there are no leaks, you should perform the negative pressure test. For this respirator, you place your hands over the air inlets. Then inhale and hold your breath to establish a negative pressure inside the facepiece. If the respirator fits properly, it should hold the suction inside of the facepiece as long as you block off the air inlets. And there should be no leaks around the sides of the facepiece. If the respirator fails either one of the fit checks, readjust the straps or harness on the respirator and repeat both checks. But if after several readjustments you still can't get it to pass both tests, you should let a supervisor know and not use the respirator. It's important to remember that even the best protective equipment is of no value to you unless you do four things. Inspect it regularly, care for it properly, use it properly, and never alter it in any way.
Once you've selected the correct screwdriver, be sure it's in good condition before you use it. The handle should not be worn or damaged. The blade's tip should be straight and smooth. If it isn't, it needs to be repaired or replaced. You also want to make sure the screwdriver is clean. A dirty or greasy screwdriver can slip out of the screw head or your hands. To use a screwdriver correctly, insert the tip of the blade into the slot of the screw. Holding the screwdriver perpendicular to the work, apply firm, steady pressure to the screw head and turn.
Now, the last bit of personal protection we'll look at concerns lifting. Many injuries occur when heavy objects are lifted. As with most things, there is a wrong way and a right way to lift an object.
Turn clockwise to tighten, counterclockwise to loosen. An easy memory tool is right is tight and left is loose. Although we used a straight blade screwdriver in our example, the steps are the same for a Phillips screwdriver.
If you decide that you can safely lift the object by yourself, stand as close to it as possible, with your feet shoulder width, about 12 to 18 inches apart. Make sure that your footing is secure and that you're well balanced. Then squat down and take a deep breath as you get a firm grasp. Keep your back straight and lift with your legs. Keep the object close to your body at waist level, and be sure it doesn't block your vision. When you put the object down, be sure to use your leg muscles and not your back. Put it down slowly, and be careful not to drop it. If a load is too big or heavy, get someone to help you. Following this procedure allows you to use your strongest muscles, which are the ones in your legs, instead of your weakest muscles, which are those in your back. Take a moment now to answer a question about personal protection. In this part, we'll take a look at common worksite hazards, and we'll discuss some general rules and guidelines for worksite safety. Specifically, we'll look at hazards associated with welding, trenching and excavating, proximity work, working around pressurized or high-temperature systems, and working in confined spaces. You should always take care around a welding operation. To prevent accidents from happening around welding, some basic safety guidelines should be followed. Always keep the work area clean and free from dangerous material. And always handle compressed gas cylinders with caution. The acetylene used in gas welding can be dangerous, and the cylinders containing it must be handled with extreme care. Never stare at a welding arc with the naked eye. Light from an arc is so concentrated that sometimes even the reflection of an arc can burn the eyes. This burn damage is commonly referred to as a flash burn. Keep in mind that even a brief unprotected exposure to a welding arc can do serious damage to your eyes. It's also important to note that the symptoms of damage usually may not show up immediately after the exposure has occurred. Symptoms of flash burn include headache, red or weeping eyes, trouble opening the eyes, impaired vision, and a swelling of the eyes. If you think that you may have experienced a flash burn to the eyes, you should get medical attention immediately. If you're the one who is welding, make sure that you use the proper protective equipment. To be properly equipped to weld, you need to have lens shields, a long-sleeve welding jacket, leather welder's gloves, high-top shoes approved for welding, and cuffless trousers which cover your ankles and shoe tops. It's important to remember that a work permit may be required before welding can be performed. It's also important to make sure that someone is present to monitor your work and alert you to potential problems. The person who does this job is often referred to as a fire watcher. After welding is completed, the fire watcher remains to make sure that there are no fires smoldering.